Hello everybody, this is my YouTube video on how to bake a lamb shank roast dinner on the American Legacy convection oven, the portable desktop convection oven. I bought this a few years ago. I haven't really used it that much, but decided to pull it out and give it another go and see how well it can bake these sorts of dinners and how long it's going to take. So what I have here is a lamb shank which I bought from just a local butcher. I've got myself some olive oil. I've got myself some mixed herbs, fried crispy onions, some black peppercorns mixed with white peppercorns and some salt. And here for the vegetables, I've simply got some carrots and half a potato chopped up into 4 pieces. They're soaking in water at the moment in order to stay fresh whilst I cook up the lamb shank. Now the idea is that I'm going to pre-cook this lamb shank for about at least an hour in the oven. But before I do that, I'm going to prepare it. And all I'm going to do to prepare is that I'm going to put oil in this plastic bag, some olive oil, and I'm going to throw in the mixed herbs and I'm going to shake it all about to completely coat the lamb shank with oil before I put it into the oven. So I've now completely coated the lamb shank in olive oil and the mixed herbs. And what I'm going to do now is throw on some salt and cracked pepper. So that's the salt and pepper on it, and I want to show you something here. 2 sides to the lamb shank, or this particular one. There's the lean meat side, and then there's a side here where you can see this fat all around the top of it. That's going to be up in the oven when I put it in, so keep an eye on that when I show you after I put it into the oven. So the next step is, let's get it in there and start baking it before I have to worry about the vegetables. So here it is now sitting in the oven. What you'll notice is that I've got a aluminium tray underneath it, and what I want to do is I want to capture any of the juices that flow from the meat into that bowl, because that's what I'm going to sit the vegetables in later on. So here it is, it's in there ready to go. I'll put the lid on and then I'll show you a couple of features of this particular oven before I start it. On this oven, we've got the timer over here, which I've set to 60, because I'm going to cook this for at least an hour before I test it. I've got the temperature set at 175 degrees Fahrenheit, or 175 degrees Celsius, 347 Fahrenheit. This lid handle is up at the moment, and it won't turn on until this is down. It's a safety feature. So we're plugged in, power's on here, and now that I've got everything set, I'm simply going to push this down, and away it goes. So now that this thing is set for an hour, we'll leave it to do its work, and I'll check back with you after that hour has gone by to see how this thing's been cooking, and if I feel that it's about ready, I can then use the last half hour of cooking to do the vegetables in that aluminium tray that we have below. Well, we're coming up to the end of the first hour, and you can see the juices collecting in the pan below. There's a beautiful aroma of the baking lamb shank, and you can see that it's getting this beautiful browning and crisping all over the top there. But I can assure you as well that that same effect is happening at the bottom of the lamb shank as well. So the timer's just gone off, and what I'm going to do now is lift the lid off and place it on this cake rack, because I don't want the very hot metal element to be touching my bench top. So I'll take it off now, and you can see just how effective it's been after 1 hour of cooking. And I'm going to test that with a fork now and just see if there's any red juices coming out. Well, I've cut into it to have a look inside, and you might be able to just see how juicy it really is, but there's not a lot of pink there, which means for my particular taste, where I like my meat to be generally well done, this is pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to put it back in now for another 30 minutes, but cooking with the vegetables, and that should just bring it up to perfect. And just to show you what I mean about the even cooking, this is the bottom of the lamb shank, so you can see it's equally cooked and crusted as is the top. So what I've done now is I've placed the potatoes and the carrots in the plastic bag that I used to coat the lamb shank with the oil and the herbs. And I've done exactly the same. I've put a bit more olive oil into it, and I have coated the vegetables with all of that olive oil, and I'll coat them finally with salt, pepper and the mixed herbs once I've put them into the pan. So here the vegetables are coated and placed into the aluminium tray, and I've also put the rack back on. I'll put the lamb shank back in, and then I'm going to continue the cooking for another half an hour, and everything should be done. During that time I'll start to prepare the gravy and prepare myself to sit down for a wonderful Sunday roast. Well, nothing is set in stone, so what I've been doing is, and particularly cooking time, so what I've been doing is I've been monitoring how it's going, and I've come to the decision that with still about 70 minutes to go, I'm going to take the lamb shank out and I'm going to wrap it in aluminium foil and let it rest while I turn the heat up in the oven so that I can crisp up the vegetables, which I'm about to check in a minute. So I'll wrap that up in the aluminium foil now to rest, but I just want to also show you how I test the vegetables. Put a fork through, and if it goes in easily and comes out like it's doing there, then they're just about ready to... This one's still a little bit tough though, it's a bit thicker than the others. So was this one. So I reckon another 15 minutes perhaps for the vegetables. The carrots are pretty much... Oh, I could do with a bit more as well. And what I failed to tell you before was that I'd put all those onions, those crispy onions in there as well to flavour the fat. So what I have now is the temperature turned all the way up to 225 degrees Celsius or 437 Fahrenheit. I've reset the timer to 20 minutes. And on this side you can see that my lamb shank is now completely wrapped up in aluminium foil so it can rest nicely there without losing too much of its heat. Just one hint for you when you're cooking with this particular device. If you find that one part of your meal is getting overcooked too much, just twist the top rather than take the lid off and move the meat about or the vegetables. Just twist the top, and what that does is it changes some of the direction of the airflow within the bowl itself, so its focus goes away from where it's overcooking onto somewhere where it's not. So anyhow, after 10 minutes I've decided that they're ready. I don't want them to burn, so I've turned it back down to 175 Celsius, 347 Fahrenheit, and I'm going to plate up the vegetables and the lamb shank, quickly make the gravy, and we're ready to go. And as you can hear, perhaps, I still see bubbling away all the oil. So I'll get those out, and I'm going to make up the gravy with the juices from the lamb shank and the crispy onions that I put in when I put the vegetables in as well. Should give it a fantastic taste. So the final touch is added. There's my meal. I'm going to top that off with a nice red Chateau Jean Tonon from Côte du Bourg. Excuse the French accent there, but it's a very nice French red. And all I'm going to do now, I'll put some boiling water from the kettle and some detergent in the bottom of the pan or the glass bowl. I'm going to put this onto its wash cycle. That's this one here, and it'll wash while I'm eating lunch. Bon appetit.